Happy Friday, fight fans. Welcome to the UFC 308 Sharp Action Report. This is not a preview show. This is not a breakdown show. This is an informational show. I am joined by my guy, Andrew from Superbook Sports in Las Vegas. He's going to bring to us all the information he can, notable action, overs, unders, sharp in public, whatever your little gambling heart desires for these UFC fights kicking off tomorrow. Andrew, my guy, how you doing today?
Man, I'm really looking forward to this card. I'm just having a good week. We're going to Pittsburgh tomorrow, so I'll be at the Steelers game on Monday.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so I'll be watching the fights in Pittsburgh, which will be pretty exciting. Handle-wise on this card, like we were talking about, the early time kind of stunts a little bit of the money, but there's still some big bets, and I know that we'll get bigger bets as this thing comes a little bit closer as well.
They'll roll in. I'm sure they'll pull up tonight after a couple of drinks on a Friday evening. You'll start getting the action you're looking for.
Absolutely. And
it's
a great card, so
it is such a good card. And there's a bunch of spots that I feel like are very bettable, which is rare, you know? Usually you get these big cards and sometimes it's tough to argue for a side. The numbers aren't so bad on this one. I think we can make some plays, but as you all know, that's the point of this show. We're going to let you know where the action has come into this point. If there's anybody that's notable, big guy moves, anything like that coming in, and our guy will let you know what that looks like. You can use that information to just sprinkle on top of your handicapping process and make some bets for yourself tomorrow. Do me a favor and hit the like button. This is the home of fight, the home of bets. Please subscribe here if you have not already. And if you're hanging out with us online, if you're on Twitter or something like that, come on over to the YouTube channel. This is where all the content is mostly going to be moving forward. Make sure you get subscribed. First fight of the evening. We've had a little bit of a shuffle on this card, which I find extremely interesting coming in here into this pay-per-view. We look to have a new first fight. Let me get this up here, guys. First fight of the evening is now Rinat Fakhretdinov taking on UFC newcomer Carlos Leal. And we've got this line bouncing back and forth basically all week. Right now, Rinat has settled in right around that minus 250 ballpark. You can get roughly plus 200 on the PFL, the former PFL fighter, Carlos Leal. What have you seen on this fight? Have there been any interesting nibbles or tidbits or anything like that?
Yeah, this is an interesting one to start off the card. We actually have one of our sharper bets on this fight, and not too much on the rest of the card. So it's one that we definitely have our eye on. We opened Rinat at minus 250. It shot up to around 260. At that point, we did take a pretty large, respected wager on the newcomer on Leal. But other than that, there hasn't been huge handle on this fight so far. You can kind of still see this thing creeping. It's come down a little bit, like I said, because of that sharp action. And currently, we need Rinat. I know that's going to change tomorrow, and I'm pretty happy to know that we have some respected money on the dog early, because I get it. I feel like it's live, and that's what I think ultimately the book is going to be rooting for, is needing that sharp side on this one.
Okay, so as of right now, they do need the favorite, as we know with the parlays, especially leading right up to these fights. That very well could change, and they've got sharp action on the dog, Carlos Leal, this week. Okay, Bruno Silva welcomes back Ismail Nardev. Nardev, somebody who is not had the most spectacular run in the UFC. He's still just 28 years old, but then had a not so spectacular run on the regional scene as well. He gets brought back against what is now a UFC veteran and Bruno Silva on a bit of a tough skid himself. But I can't wrap my mind around this movement, man. You've got to help clear this up for me here, because something had to have happened. Somebody has to know something, because Nardev, I believe, opened up as the dog. He is now sitting entrenched as a minus 170 favorite, and it just makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, this is a weird one. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't looking too much into this fight early in the week, but it is interesting to see how the line has moved on this one. We didn't open up Ishmael as a dog, but early on when some of those other books had opened it, he was. But we opened him up at 130 here. It's continued to shoot up all the way to 175, and that's where we're sitting right now. honestly, there hasn't been a lot of action on that Bruno Silva side, so I kind of think that's what's been pushing this up. And truly, it must indicate that there's some smart money on the Ishmael side if he opened up a dog and he's sitting 170. The biggest wager we have on this fight is actually not notable, but it was a big bet. We did take a big bet on the fight to go the distance on this one. I know I don't usually sprinkle that in, but I thought I'd mention it because there wasn't too much else on the fight other than the line movement.
Okay. That is very interesting that in this particular fight, we got more of an overlook than an underlook for any kind of notable betting action. All right, guys. So not a whole ton to talk about on that one, but a very weird and almost unsettling fight here for me, man. Farid Basharat and Victor Hugo. This one got weird in a hurry. So Farid Basharat's been the biggest favorite on the board basically the entire week. Him and Kennedy and Nezich, who we'll talk about in a moment, are kind of vying for that top position. However, I was going to save this little tidbit for my undefeated post weigh-in show, which, by the way, guys, will be in just like an hour or two. So make sure you come on back around. But this fight, very randomly at the last second, was moved from 135 pounds to 145 pounds. Now, usually when somebody misses weight, Andrew, we see them agree to a catch weight, or they'll take a fine. They'll just take a hit on their purse, and they'll let the fight continue as is. But it looks like Victor Hugo was so far away from making the 135-pound limit, they had to move the fight up an entire weight class to get this thing to not be pulled off the board today. So Hugo weighs in at 145 pounds. Farid Basharat had already done his work, made his cut, and came in at 135 pounds. There will be a big size and weight discrepancy between these two men coming in on Saturday. And I've seen nothing but love for Farid Basharat, even sitting as a minus 750 favorite. What have you seen on this one?
Yeah, this is another one that's just kind of a classic big favorite getting thrown into the parlays. And there really hasn't been too much buyback, but you do make a interesting point on Victor Hugo. If that weight miss gives him some sort of an advantage because he's much bigger than Basharat, then maybe we will get some large respected money. I've kind of said it before on when we do our little podcast that a lot of these smart guys who do like the dogs, they understand how the market works. They're just going to wait till the last day or when they feel like the number has peaked on the big favorite, and sometimes they come in on the big dogs and can get a big win. I mean, the most recent one I remember where we really got nailed was that Dan Hooker fight against Gamrot. They waited last minute till that thing creeped up all the way and then came in big on the dog. So this could be another one like that. We opened up Basharat at 550. We're currently sitting a little bit higher than the market on Basharat at $9. So you do make an interesting point with Hugo, and it will be interesting to see if we do get any bets on the dog in this one.
It just makes things weird, man. Anytime there's that kind of a weight miss, something's going on. You know what I mean? Whether it's a pro or a con or what side that pro or con falls on, difficult to tell.
Right.
Next fight up, we've got another big favorite. Kennedy Nezich takes on Chris Barnett. Another very strange fight. This one taking place at heavyweight. Kennedy is a lifelong 205er. Chris Barnett is a heavyweight, but based on his frame, he probably should fight at 155. So we're not really sure what's going on in this fight at all. But you've got Kennedy, who just let down split decision against OSP, who we saw get nuked by his teammate in his next fight, turning around now sitting as a minus 800 favorite. What's going on across the desk on this one?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Chris Barnett miss heavyweight weight at one point in time?
There may have been a day where he missed heavyweight. Thankfully, not today.
Sure he did. No, I know he didn't today, but in the past, which is insane. I really don't have a ton to report on this one. I'll give you guys the line movement, and we do have some interesting bets on one of the method of victories, but nothing too crazy on this price of a fight. So we opened up Kennedy at $7. It's currently sitting $8. It did get as high as $9. There's been a couple fights on Barnett around that when it got to $9. But a popular bet for this weekend has been Barnett by decision, which is, I guess it's 13, 14 to 1. So that liability does add up quick when there's a lot of people biting on it. And, just running through things to give you guys, that's something that I found. And there was a good handful of bets on Barnett to win by decision, but nothing really else to report on this fight.
Nothing would make me happier than watching Huggy Bear get a big old win tomorrow over in Saudi Arabia. All right, guys. So the next fight up, we've got Abus Magomedov, and he's taking on Bruno Ferreira, a line that is just kind of sat as far as I can tell. Abus is a slight favorite, minus 140, minus 145, and you can get plus 125, plus 130 on Bruno Ferreira. Anything on this one, Andrew?
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
It is.
I feel like there's pretty strong opinions on both sides of this fight, which makes it fun from a booking standpoint. I'll start with where we opened. So we opened up Abus at minus 135. It's sitting at 145. It got as high as 150. But like I said, there's been some big bets on both sides of this fight, and I'd say a majority of the respected money came on Abus pretty early, around 135-ish. And yeah, it's good to see good two-way on this fight.
Okay. Good two-way action on this one. I think that makes sense. Bruno Ferreira has been making people a lot of money recently, so I'm sure he'll be a very popular side for a lot of people. And, Abus has that last name in a very unique part of the world, so I think that's going to get some action on that side as well. Should be a good one. I'm excited to watch that fight. Next up, you have got another really weird weigh-in situation, guys. Mikbek Orby takes on Mateusz Rebecky early in the wee hours of the morning today. This one also got moved. It is a catch weight, though. They're not going up a full weight class. We just needed about an extra 5 pounds or so. I have not been able to confirm which side that weight difference was taking place on. However, Orby weighed in slightly less than Rebecky did, so my suspicion is that Mateusz Rebecky was not going to be able to make the 155-pound limit, and so they asked for a catch weight. Orby is one of the larger favorites on the board here this week, and personally one of my favorite parlay legs, Andrew. So tell me some good news. I don't want to hear anything about sharp bettors on the Rebecky side, please.
Yeah, we haven't got anything on the Rebecky side yet. You can kind of see that on the way the line has moved. So hopefully you got in there a little bit earlier than where we're sitting now. We opened up Orby at $2.50. It's sitting at $3. It got as high as $3.20. But a majority of that money has just come in on the favorite. Surprising where this fight is in the card. There hasn't really been too much money on this fight, which is surprising because I do feel like this is a fun fight and the line is not too crazy. So hopefully going into tomorrow, we get some more action on this one. But a majority of the money has come in on the favorite, and we're going to need the dog in this one for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm hoping that dog isn't one that's barking, thankfully. Let's move on to Jeff Neal and Rafael dos Anjos here. Just an absolute legend taking on a prospect that kind of never came all the way around. However, Neal, with the youth, the size, being a natural 170-pounder, he is another minus 300 favorite on this board. Anybody interested in RDA this week?
Yeah, this is a fun fight where we have a couple of respected bets in this one. So I'll start where we opened. We opened up Neal at $3. It's currently sitting $2.80 at our book. It did get as high as $3.30. At that point, when it hit $3.30, we did get some respected money on RDA. It hasn't really slowed down. Like, it didn't really move the market back in the other direction that much because it's still sitting around a $3 favorite. And it would take a lot of RDA money to kind of start moving that line. And what else did we get? Oh, the most respected bettor on this fight ended up playing total over 2.5 at minus 170. That's currently sitting at minus $2 now, but I thought I'd throw in a total for you guys as well.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate all the info we can get. That is good to know. Over is the look apparently on this fight. And I think that makes sense to me because at 170, RDA has just not been the most prolific finisher, especially in 15-minute fights. And Neal has been relatively tough to put away. Neal does have the hands and the power, the ability to sit people down, but RDA is a tough nut to crack. That's not an easy guy to KO. So I kind of like that overlook as well. All right. Next fight up, guys, another interesting spot. Interesting because things are shifting and changing on this card as we speak. Aslon takes on Rafael Cicada. This man comes in here 11-0, undefeated, just fought absolute cans and bums. And this fight was initially one of the curtain jerkers. It was one of the bottom fights on the card. Now we find it closing out the preliminaries of this card. And you know what I always say about fights that are closing out the prelims? That's the sale for the pay-per-view. That's the fight that the UFC goes, no, you watch this one, so that way you pony up that $79.99, or I guess it's probably $89.99 now, to go ahead and buy the pay-per-view because you want to see more of what you just got. So very intriguing to me that the UFC looked at this fight and went, no, it can't be the second fight of the night. It's got to be the last prelim. Interesting. And it seems like there's been some line movement on this one as well. What are you seeing over there from across the counter, man?
Yeah, man, this is an interesting one. I'm hoping later on when you do your post weigh-in show, you have your tinfoil hat and you have.
Oh, I will.
Your
right here.
Conclusion of why this fight got moved up so much. But this one's had a lot of line movement. So I'm not really sure how you say his name, but it's Cicada. He opened up as a small dog here at the book, plus 105. He's currently sitting minus 130. So to me, obviously that indicates there's been some sharp money on that side to push the price through being a dog to a pretty decent sized favorite now. But at our book, there hasn't been too much money on the favorite, and it's a pretty minor decision, to be honest. We are going to end up needing Aslon currently, but also another really, really popular method of victory prop has been Ebo by knockout. So that's something else that will play against us. We kind of are in a tough spot. Need Rafael for the money line, but then we don't need Ebo for the we need Aslon for the money line, but we don't need him to win by knockout. So it's kind of just a wash at this point for us at the book. And
so your ideal spot is Aslon by decision.
That would be most ideal.
There you go. All right. Good to know. All right, guys, we're getting into the thick of it here. We're on the main card. Do us a favor and hit the like button if you have not. I'm joined by Andrew from Superbook Sports in Las Vegas to talk about the notable action for UFC 308. Shara Bullet Magomedov takes on Armen Petrosian, 185 pounds. You guys know me. I've always felt like Shara's a bit of a fraud. He's a good striker, but I don't think he's a well-rounded MMA fighter. I'm planting my flag. I'm taking my shot. I'm on the dog on this side, man. Give me some good news. This has been a very competitive line. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight. I'm just hoping I don't get robbed by these judges. What's going on, notable or otherwise, on this fight?
Yeah, this is a fun one because the price has kind of come down on Shara. So we opened up 180. It's currently sitting 165, pretty close to where we opened it. But, Shara is a pretty popular fighter at this point, so I kind of figured this line would kind of expand. But there has been some bets on the Petrosian side, and to me, the line really indicates that Petrosian has some smart backers, and that's why the line has kind of come down a little bit. It'll be interesting to see where this thing closes. But for us, we're going to end up needing your side as well. Majority of the bets have still come in on Shara, whether it be money line or parlays. But yeah, it's nice to know that there's some people in this marketplace that are backing Petrosian, and they might be winning bettors.
Okay. All right. There you guys go. Hopefully that means I'm on the okay side here. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Lerone Murphy and Dan Ige, probably the toughest fight on the entire card to call. And I said this on the Monday podcast, man, not because There's a bunch of unknowns, but because we know how good both these guys are, this is an extremely tough fight against a couple of ranked veterans. I can't wait for this one. Lerone Murphy minus 270-ish at this point. Dan Ige comes back around plus 220. What's going on here on this one from a betting perspective?
Yeah, this is a fun fight, and I expect this one to play out closer than maybe the line indicates. But Murphy opened up around 180. It's currently sitting 260. So a majority of the money has come in on Murphy, and there's probably some smart backers on that side. So this is one where we could use the dog, and I never hate when the book is rooting for Dan Ige, because he goes in there and fights hard every single time.
He'll fight for your money.
Yeah, and I love that about Dan Ige. What else did I have for this fight? Yeah, to be honest, there hasn't been anything overly respected on this fight, other than that 80-cent move, which is a pretty large move.
That's a pretty significant move.
It is a significant move. But as of now, the book is going to be rooting for Dan Ige, and I don't think that's going to change within the next 24 hours.
Okay. The book does need Dan Ige, and it looks like that number is coming down. Unfortunately, we saw that in the Rams-Vikings game the other day, where the world was on my Vikings, and sure enough, that number kept dipping, and the Rams end up getting the money. I'll be very curious to see if Ige can pull this off. Big test for Lerone Murphy. Magomed Ankaliev takes on Alexander Rakic in the next fight. And once again, we have got a big favorite tag here on Magomed Ankaliev, the man who would be king. Everybody talks about this man being the #1 contender, the man who's destined to take the belt off of Alex Pereira, but he's got a big challenge in front of him here. Rakic, a larger human being than Magomed Ankaliev, which I did find interesting. He's a big dude out there. What do you guys see on this one?
Yeah, this one's moved quite a bit as well. We opened up the Ankaliev at minus 360, which is a pretty large favorite. It's currently sitting at the $4 mark. I did get as high as 450. One thing that's promising for us is when we hit that 450 mark, we took a decent sized wager on Rakic at plus 375 from a winning bettor. So that was promising for us, but you're not going to dig your heels in and try your hardest to be winning a boatload of money on a plus 375 dog. So it didn't move the market that much, but it's nice to know at the end of the day, there's some smart money on Rakic. And if he wins, the book will do very well. That's what we're going to end up needing. So we're rooting for Rakic at the book, and there's some smart money on that side as well.
Oof. Makes me nervous. I'm not a Magomed Ankaliev guy, but I've got him this weekend, man. So I'm hoping that's not the dog that gets barking there for you guys this week. Next up, we got Rob Whitaker and Khamzat Chimaev. A very intriguing fight here. Price has been bouncing all around left and right. Khamzat was in the minus $3 favorite range. He's sitting about minus 240. You could get good solid plus money on Rob Whitaker. That number is dipping. I'm seeing plus 195 out there now. So it seems like some live dog action with all the personal issues and lack of aura that we've seen from Khamzat basically all fight week. What do you guys see as far as betting stuff goes on this one?
Yeah, this is the fight that I feel like, other than the Holloway fight, people have been talking about this one for a while. So I'm really looking forward to this fight. We opened up Khamzat at minus 220. It's currently sitting 240. Like you said, it did get around that $3 range. And at that point, we did start getting some respected money on Whitaker. So this is another one where it's still a sizable favorite, but there is some smart people that think Whitaker is, worth putting your money on. So we're going to need Whitaker. We're going to be rooting for Whitaker. Right now, we don't actually need Whitaker. We actually need Khamzat pretty big. But I know by tomorrow when the card tips off, we are going to need Whitaker. There's no doubt in my mind about that one. And like I said, it's honestly nice to see some smart money on the dogs, because I know it's been last card there was a couple that came in, but it's been a tough 6-month stretch for dog bettors for sure.
It has been a very dry, chalky 2024. That is for sure. All right, guys, main event time. Ilia Topuria takes on Max Blessed Holloway. And we've got Max sitting right around plus $2. minus 250 for the champ, Ilia Tuporia. He was a pick'em against Alexander Volkanovski in his last fight. Now he's worth 250 instead in his first title defense. What are you seeing on this one?
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to surprise you guys, but currently we do need Hamza and Taporia, so we do need both of the favorites.
Wow.
I know that's not going to be what it is tomorrow. So there has been some good money coming in on Holloway as well. And I think that's kind of why you see this line has not moved very much. We opened it up at 240. It's sitting 250 on Ilia. But there's been good two-way. And like I said, there's been some large wagers on Max, which is nice to see because it makes our job a lot easier. We don't need to be, you know, in a spot where we're praying for these 250 dogs at the end of the night. when you're getting some good action early on the dogs, it's nice to see. Nothing too respected, I'll say that. Another popular method of victory prop has been there's been some really big bets on Ilia by sub around 650, which is interesting to see those bets because, like I said, when you're hitting over 5-1s, that liability adds up quick, and it only takes a few guys coming in and betting pretty big on those props to have a big amount of liability. So yeah, that's been a popular one, Ilia by sub.
Okay. All right. Good to know. And shout out to the chat. Cade saying Hamzat opened minus 220 at this book. I'm holding Hamzat minus 162 at DK. And Cade, my friend, I am so happy for you to have that kind of number. But just let me tell you guys, there's a reason we do the show with my guy Andrew from Superbook Sports. No disrespect. They're a decent bit sharper when it comes to MMA and most sports than DK is. So I'm glad you got that number, but that number wouldn't be existing at a place like Superbook Sports for you. They're going to make you pay the right price. All right. That is the Sharp action report for UFC 208. Thank you guys so much for watching on this one here. We really appreciate you guys hanging out and your time. If I could get this stupid thing to work. All right, there we go. Just so you guys know, don't forget, the boys over at Home of Fight Premium Bets are up over 90 units in 2024. Promo code 308. And you can get a 5-day free trial to go ahead and check out those premium bets in action over there. There's a link to the winnable in the description of this video. Please click that. Go check it out. Promo code 308 will get you a 5-day free trial. Get the action and bets from the premium players at Home of Fight for UFC 308 in the morning. My man, thank you so much for doing this show with me. We always appreciate your time that you spend with us and the information you pass along. Let the people know what you've got coming up. If you have anything that they can do to support or chat or touch base with you. And then I just want to know what your favorite play on the board for UFC 308 is.
Oh, okay.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I'll think about that for a second. Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to the card. If you guys are ever in Vegas and you're looking to make a fair-sized wager, stop by the book. I think you'll be pretty amazed to see how awesome the book is. We might not have all the betting options, like you said, of the FanDuel and DraftKings, but I think we offer, fair odds, and we're looking to take some big bets. So if you're in Vegas and you feel like stopping by, stop by, say what's up, and I'll be around. For my favorite fight on this card, man, I've been telling everybody all week I think I like Whitaker, so I'll say Whitaker.
All right, I'm this close, man. I've been staring at that plus money on Whitaker all week, and I'm trying to decide if I want to do it by the end of the show this afternoon or not.
Yeah, that's a
so we're in the same boat,
dude. We did our. Here's another thing. I'll be getting up the UFC futures relatively soon here, hopefully for next year. We talked about the UFC futures, I feel like, a couple years ago, and we were like, it was a foregone conclusion that Hamza would be a champion, And it's crazy this process has taken this long to get him near a title shot. So, yeah, that's
and we were talking about 170, not 185.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy to see what's happened with his career.
It's been wild. It has been wild. All right, guys. Make sure you give Andrew a follow, especially go give him a follow if you're on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. He posts out the last minute notice for the sharp action, big bets, stuff like that as it rolls in after we end this show right before the fights kick off on Saturdays. So make sure you're following him for additional good information. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you for the Undefeated post weigh-in show in an hour or two. I'll get that up and going for you guys here this afternoon. Let's roll. I missed the button.